welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because, well, I'm often seen with a guitar. And they call me on the phone and they ask me, they say, hey man, what's your show about? I say, it's about an hour. It's about guitar players, guitar playing, all things guitaristic. So if you want to ask me a question about the care and feeding of your guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, how to play the guitar, if you want to talk about some related topic like the guitarrón, the sitar, the cithara, the udvihuela, banjos, balalaikas, bazookies, bajos, sextos, tiples, cavaquinhos, ukuleles, banjoleles. If you want to talk about, trombones and trombomarinas, or pipe organs, piccolos, accordions, ocarinas. If you want to talk about, clarinets or clavinets, clavichords or clavinovas. If you want to talk about pianos or, I could go through the whole, I could spend the whole, I could spend this whole show naming off instruments you could talk about if you want, because there sure are an awful lot of them. People like to, play things, like the panpipes, also known as the quills. We want to talk about, I like trombomarinas. I think that's kind of a big monochord thing. Anyway, if you want to talk about politics, world events, your own personality problems, that's fine. We're here for you, but keep it clean. This is a family show. Phew. How's that? Is that all right?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, all right, okay. I just got Bob here. Bob mentioned to me that Fender just went public.
Well, they're going public.
Oh, they're going public, okay. So Fender's going to go public, and you could buy a stock in them if you want. They say that'll make your portfolio cooler. But I don't know if they'll make any money on it. There's a joke about guitar players that I think it goes through the whole guitar business, but see, the difference between a guitar player and a U.S. savings bond is that a savings bond actually matures and earns money. So anyway, but it's interesting that we're talking about this because I brought a Fender Stratocaster and a Fender Super Champ XD amp. So I'm all Fendery here. I actually have a Fender T-shirt that I've been using as pajamas. I wore it on the show years ago, and there were complaints because it was this yellow color, and I guess I don't look very good in yellow. And a woman pointed this out to me when she watched my show, and it was an African-American woman, actually. I think it's particularly offensive to people with darker skin, which is sometimes more photogenic. When a guy like me wears a yellow shirt, it just, on TV, it doesn't look that good. But anyway.
Of course, back in the days before we built this beautiful studio, when you were working in front of a black curtain, it was just your face and arms out here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I wanted to kind of have my body sort of drift, into the black background and have the guitar be up front. But, now we have this beautiful logo, which Laura made.
Now PATV has constructed this beautiful studio.
That's right. Specifically for Tom's Guitar Show with a custom paint job on the wall. And right, and if you believe that, then I think you should buy some stock in Fender. No, I didn't say that. I didn't. Anyway, I'm sorry, but anyway, but you were looking up a bunch of facts about Fender too, weren't you? You were
yeah, they changed hands a few times. Fender started the company. He sold it to CBS.
1965.
I'm sure, the 65. And then he left shortly after that and started up
Music Man.
I forgot what the name of the company
was. Music Man, yeah. And then
he died in 1991.
He had G&L guitars too for a while, and I have a G&L, and I highly recommend G&Ls. I like Fenders too. I have Fenders, but I have a G&L, which is like George and Leo. So Leo Fender teamed up with some guy named George, I guess. And I don't know the history of G&L guitars, but anyway, it was Leo Fender, and a lot of people said the G&Ls were better than the Fenders, depending on.
But apparently there was a lot of unhappiness with Fenders while CBS owned the company.
Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, there are these pictures of you can tell the difference because you see a Fender has like the pre-CBS Fender has a small headstock like this, but when CBS bought them out, they had a much larger sort of angle here, so they stuck out more. So you can tell the difference. They call them pre-war, but I guess maybe they mean Vietnam. But anyway, the pre-war always was World War II, but. Anyway, but they were calling the earlier Fenders pre-war. But if you watch Jimi Hendrix smash his guitars and set them on fire, he has this Arctic white Stratocaster he's famous for playing. And you'll see him play the whole gig with a guitar with a small headstock like this. This is 1995 vintage, this guitar. So they went back to the original shape, but the ones
post CBS.
Yeah, this is post CBS, so it just looks like pre CBS. But anyway, so you'll see Jimi Hendrix smashing a guitar and setting it on fire, and you realize that one has a bigger headstock than the one he was playing a few minutes ago. I wonder why.
So he plays a pre-CBS Fender and smashes a CBS Fender.
Right, exactly. I think the one he liked was a 1959 vintage Arctic White Strat, which should be, if you had one of those, well, if you had the one he played, you could sell it and retire easily. Or you already did retire, didn't you?
Oh, we mentioned the comparison between Fender stock and Harley stock. Anyway, Harley had a similar situation. AMF owned them for a while, and everybody hated the AMF Harleys.
I see. Yeah, well, I think building a guitar and perhaps a motorcycle is an art, not a business. I mean, you can, I don't know, and I worked in a couple factories. I helped make the toothpaste at Procter & Gamble for a while. I never knew how they got them into the tube before, but my job was actually feeding the machine that put them in the tube. So I put the empty tubes and the empty boxes into a machine, and then the machine would squirt the toothpaste in and then put it in a box, and it would come out the other end, and somebody would package it. But
yeah, I saw a cartoon one time about Superman squeezing a toothpaste tube and then trying to get the toothpaste to kick a tube.
Yeah, well, I don't think you can do it, but well, maybe if we, I'm sure you could if you tried hard enough and you developed the right devices, but I do know how they get the toothpaste in the tube.
But it goes in the bottom, right?
Right, it goes in the bottom and it's sealed up, and then they would shut down the whole line because something went wrong, and then we would actually open up each box of toothpaste and squeeze them. Now we were wearing little cotton gloves, and we had hair nets and beard nets if necessary, and we would squeeze them to make sure we didn't have any leakers. And if you had leakers, you put them in a box and you throw them away. Now, if you took a leaker home, because all it does is like leak a little bit out the end, you know, if you were caught taking one home, you'd be instantly fired. But so you know, I mean, I don't know how often you buy a tube of toothpaste, but it's not
not that often.
Not that often. It lasts a little bit goes a long way, and anyway, never mind. So yeah, but anyway, I'm talking about toothpaste, and we're really talking about Harleys and Fenders, but and it's true that Harley makes more money selling T-shirts and stuff than they do motorcycles, but and Fender, of course, is the thing that dreams are made of. But anyway, but yeah. So Fender's gone public, but I have a Fender Stratocaster. I looked up the serial number. I bought it new in the mid-'90s, but I wanted to make sure. So I looked up the serial number, and it was 1995, made in Corona, California. So it's the real thing.
I think was on one of these things. That's the year they opened up again in California. Let me look again.
Yeah, okay. Because actually before that, some years before that, they were all being made in Japan and Korea. And in extreme cases, India. I actually saw some Stratocasters that are made in India. And which is very different. But I mean, they make them in China, Indonesia, Mexico, and Corona, California. But,
well, according to this thing, the Corona plant opened in '98.
Well, the new one.
Yeah.
But they
were doing something there before that.
Yeah, they were building them there before that, apparently. Well, mine says Corona, California, 1995, in the serial number.
So it was just an expansion.
I think they built a new plant there, but they had an older plant. They had been in Corona for a long time, and then they closed the plant and they opened it again, I think.
I will study some more.
He's going to study more about Fender. I'm going to play this Fender, and I'm going to play, and we'll just decide what to do after that. What's this here? I'll put it on. Okay, 1, 2, here we go. How about some blues in G? Sometimes I'm under a little pressure to have fewer guitars, and I don't really want to have a life without this Stratocaster. I have my little story. You know, I had a '63 Stratocaster at one time. Apparently, somebody had refinished it, which lost a lot of its value. They put on a two-tone sunburst. It had a three-tone sunburst before, or something. But it was a 1963 pre-CBS, and it was great. It was wonderful. It was, but I was broke, and I sold it, and I really wish. But anyway, I hear them talking about issues in there. I wonder if my sound is okay, or they're having trouble in there. Are they? Or?
I am here. I've lost my connection to the internet here.
I see.
So far, either my
he's okay. Okay.
PATV's server is. They don't want to talk to each other right now.
I see. Oh well.
Perhaps we should mention your upcoming appearances.
Yeah, well, you know, this weekend I'm going to be in beautiful downtown Kelowna on Friday and Saturday night. Now, on Saturday I have a gig, I have a wedding to do earlier, and in the day, but I think I'll be at Tuscan Moon, my usual, slightly late, 6:30ish.
9:30 or so?
Yeah, or I've been playing up till 10 most of the time lately, but I will be there. Beautiful downtown Kelowna. It's from at 6:30 or so, Friday and Saturday nights at Tuscan Moon, which is a sort of an Italian steakhouse. And the food is good. The staff, they have these hardworking Mennonites. There's Sam. Her name is actually Samantha. She's early 20s. Mennonite. I think it's like her second job or something or whatever. And the bartender, who's also of Mennonite background, says that the Mennonite women just work really hard and everything. So she's she's like cleaning the gross things.
They're a big part of the population down around Kelowna.
That's a big part of the population. So you could have a charming and hardworking Mennonite waitress or bartender for that matter. But interesting characters down there. But I've become part of the local fauna. I go there, twice a week most of the time, almost every week. Sometimes I have like this last week I had to take Saturday off because I had 2 gigs. And boy, it was hot. How hot was it? It was so hot anyway. Yeah, sorry. I had 2 outdoor gigs on Saturday, and I see Tuscan Moon. They have a nice courtyard area with a pergola over some of the seating and an outdoor bar, and there's tables, and it's really very nice out there if the weather's permitting. And if not, we're inside, which is fine too, because I have these nice rooms upstairs and everything, but it's a little crowded in there, a little loud in there. And I really so much prefer being outdoors. And there's something about a nice, is it al fresco? Is that when you eat outdoors?
I think that's in nature, isn't it?
In nature, yeah. Well, it's in Kelowna, but there'll be these birds like singing at me from the telephone line, and then you can smell the Kelowna bakery. But about 9:30, the wind shifts, and then you can smell the sale barn where they sell the horses. So it's horse residue. But anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's outdoors is really nice, and I hope the weather will cooperate because. So see, like last Saturday, I was playing this wedding, and the idea was I was supposed to play a sort of a cocktail hour before the wedding because the preacher guy was doing another wedding in the Quad Cities, and he was going to be late.
Right.
So. So I was talking to a guy, and I'm standing there, I got my amp and everything ready to go take out there, but I'm in the lobby of the Marriott Hotel there in Coralville. And so I have I'm ready to go out there, but I'm just checking the time and everything, and so I'm talking to this guy, says, well, I think it's cooled down a little bit. I say, no, it's 104. So, and the thing was that the sun had gone over the hotel, so it was we were in the shade, but it had been on that concrete all day long before that. And the air was 104. So I went out there to play the cocktail hour, which ended up being the cocktail 20 minutes or so. And there were very few people there. Only the die-hard nicotine freaks were out there. Everybody else was standing around the lobby of the hotel.
Inside the air conditioning.
Inside the air conditioning. And then the wedding happened. Everybody sat there, and I did the wedding music. It all went out pretty well. But I will say I did have a problem, though, because the recessional, was just a... But this, but my fingers have to shift. See, I'm shifting a bar chord, so I have my finger all the way across, you know, like so it's. It didn't shift as well as it normally would do, you see. And those are on the nylon strings too, which, you know, they weren't slippery as usual.
Right.
So I didn't quite play it as well as I wanted to, you know, right there. I did everything else fine. I didn't have any other problems, but I didn't quite get there as quick as I thought because I was warm. Now, I didn't wear my black wool suit. It's a light wool suit, but it's like a cheap Italian suit.
It's 100 degrees.
Yeah, 104.
Hard to make wool light enough.
That's right. So actually, I played another gig after that, but when I went home, which is another thing, I went to Mount Pleasant. I played another outdoor gig in somebody's backyard, which was very nice, but it cooled off a little bit about 10 o'clock. But when I finally got home, before I took my shower, I looked up the weather thing and said, today's high was 104 at 5:05 p.m. And it's like, that was when I was out doing the cocktail hour, or which wasn't anywhere close to an hour. So I was there at the peak on top of a hot concrete. So I don't know. I mean, other people have to work for a living, and I know people used to dig ditches, you know, in Iowa. I mean, they drained all this swampland that used to be a lot of marshland here. They drained it, you know, to make it suitable for cornfields. And the way they did it was in the old days with shovels, yeah. And during the day, and they were like right off the boat from Ireland, a lot of them, Germany. And when you think about it, it's, you know, it doesn't get that really all that warm up there, like in northern Germany or Ireland. It must have been quite a shock for them. And of course, a lot of them died of yellow fever too. But you know, they didn't have mosquito repellent yet. They hadn't invented the electric fan or mosquito repellent, let alone air conditioning, or you know, antibiotics. So anyway, so that's my story. But anyway, yes, I will be in Kelowna, and I hope that the weather stays reasonable. And if it's in the low 80s and goes into the 70s in the evening, that's fine. That's great. I'll be out there playing my kind of tropical music, and people do come. But get a reservation, because their chances of walking in and getting a table are very slim. Unless you know, do it later in the evening.
After the supper rush.
Right. But, you know, like 9 o'clock or something. But yeah, I would try to get a table. I'd call them tomorrow, because they're closed today. They close Mondays and, I think, yeah, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But the guy, the chef, who reorganized and made the kitchen into a place of peace and harmony, is moving on. He's going to Colorado. His mother has some land there, and they're going to do a bed and breakfast and a restaurant, and all very sustainable. So there's going to be agricultural. They're going to grow a lot of their own food and stuff. So I asked him if it burned up yet, but he's going to leave in a couple weeks. And they got a new guy, but you know, like the guy, you know, he came in and we had there's all sort of strife, which often happens in a kitchen, and he spread peace and harmony among the employees and the other cooks and dishwasher type people, and everything is fine. And then he's going to ride out into the sunset. Literally, he's going to go to Colorado and move off to there, and then leave it to some other guy who seems like he's a decent fellow. But he was like the Lone Ranger, you know. These kitchens are very passionate. These people in the kitchens, you know, they have sharp things and hot things too, and they're very emotional, a lot of them, and I wouldn't want to violate any confidences. I played in a lot of restaurants. See, I'm more of like a restaurant guitar player than a bar, because I'm more like a classical guitarist, really. I mean, I'm holding a blue Stratocaster, but I'm, you know, more like a classical guitarist, really. So I've been to a lot of restaurants, and you know, those chef types are very emotional, a lot of them, and I don't want to violate confidences about like alcohol abuse, but they tend to drink too, and I've the things I've seen. Anyway, I'm sorry, but did you ever get your internet back, or?
No, I still can't connect to the internet.
Okay.
That guy didn't stay around long enough to let you see his dark side.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That's how they maintain the reputation. They move on quickly and create
I see it.
You just don't know long enough to know the chord
I had a woman tell me that people, for the first amount of period of time when they're dating, with somebody, they're in their best behavior, and you get to know them for 2 years before you decide whether you're gonna. Because I think it was my girlfriend, about a year and a half into our relationship, she told me that once. And she'd been married for years. Somebody else. Fine. Anyway, I actually watched last week's show. Way too much talking, not enough guitar playing. That's what I played my DBZ guitar, and it was all right. But. What?
I like this guitar you have tonight.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? The thing is, this is a 1995 vintage, and it's fine. It's great. It's like, I had actually new pickups, and this is a subject of a show we had a year or two ago. I had some different pickups and things put on it, but like appliances, stuff that was soldered and screwed in, and then this used to be white. It had white pickups and white, pick guard, which just made the whole thing look a little too cheerful for me. Then I had it done in black, and sort of black and blue motif is kind of nice, I think. And other people said, well, that black won't go with the maple, the maple neck. It's this maple, the maple neck and the black won't go together very well. But I think it looks fine the way it is. And the new pickups make it sound really good. I think. I like the new Fender. They're noiseless, which is less noise is what it is. Not noise less, but less noise than the other ones. But it's sort of, I think it sounds great, but it's a 1995. It hasn't worn out. Now, if you had I had a 1998 Neon car, and I drove it for 10 years, and it started looking pretty old after 10 years or so. But the guitar is fine, and I would say that probably 10 years from now or 20 years from now, it'll still be fine. And that's the thing about a well-built guitar is it lasts, I wouldn't say forever, but I have a guitar from the 1820s hanging on the wall at home, which I play still. It's cracked, and the guy sold it to me told me it was a French guitar from about 1820 or so. And the other guy, I had a guy restore it and work on it a little bit, and he said it was, no, it's not. It's a German guitar from about 1822. So, okay. But I wanted a French one. I'm sorry, okay. So.
question back again. It says some of the Japanese fenders are pretty good.
Yeah, some people say that, yeah. I've heard that before. But I've heard a lot of things before. I mean, you know.
Anyway, their Mexican plant burned down. Let me see when that was.
The Mexican plant burned down.
That's been a while back. It's been replaced now, I think.
Maybe they put a better one down there, I hope. I have 3 Mexican fenders. I brought that black Telecaster on the show a while ago, and it was made in Mexico. And then I have another Stratocaster, which is a natural wooden-colored one with a rosewood fingerboard, which is also made in Mexico. It's pretty nice. And then my white Fender Jazz bass, the one with frets, was made in Mexico. My black fretless was made in the custom shop in Corona, but come to think of it, among all my Fenders, I only have 2 made in the USA. And 3 that weren't. I have a G&L, which is like a Fender, which is started by Leo Fender, that was his company. And it's a Telecaster, and it was made in California. But
Yes, in 1994, plant in Mexico burned down. They temporarily shifted production to California.
huh. When you started building the Mexican Fenders in California?
Yes, well, the designs that had been built in Mexico were moved to California after the plant in Mexico burned down in 1994.
Huh. Well, what do you know? The wonders. The things you learn. Anyway, huh. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't know they were building them that long ago. You know, I thought that was more recent that they were building them in Mexico.
Well, I'm sure they are again. No, they've no doubt replaced that plant.
Yeah, well, they're I'm sure they're
Because it said temporarily shifted to California, so.
That's right, but I didn't realize that they were actually building Fenders in Mexico in 1994. I thought it was later that they started doing that. Oh, interesting. Huh, there's a lot to know, I suppose. What I don't want to know is, I remember this era in the 80s when they weren't building them in the U.S. at all.
Yeah.
Like, you know, somewhere 84, 85.
Yeah, well, it says that the good Japanese Fenders are pre-1990, so.
Yeah. Right, well, that makes sense. Some people are seek those.
Yeah.
But, so I'll tell you, my secret for, my trick, if I pick up a Fender, so the neck is bolted on in the back here. But what I do is I just turn the pickup, just turn the volume off, right? So, as you play the thing, you just hold on, play a chord, and then does your thumb rattle? Does it vibrate? Do you feel is the neck alive? Is the whole guitar singing? I can feel my thumb just like vibrating along with it. And I see I'm out of tune again too, I can tell. But, so this is a good one. And the Mexican one that I have is also, I mean, the neck vibrates when I play it.
Yeah.
It zings. It has the whole thing is alive, right? There's a thing about the set neck, which is a neck that's actually built into the guitar. See, this is bolted on, which I can show you. Here we go. Here we go. I'll get off the side here. See, there we go. It's so it's it's bolted onto the neck. Now what I did was I put actually a strap button on the back plate, which is one of my own little tricks, because it makes the guitar hang more like a classical guitar higher up in my body. But anyway, but the neck is bolted onto the body. You can unscrew the neck. You can replace the neck. You can buy another neck and screw it on. So some people would feel that there are actually other guitars like a Les Paul or an SG, the Gibson guitars, which we've been all over on this show too, because I got last summer I got a Les Paul and a SG, but those have set necks. They're actually built into the guitar. They're glued into the guitar. You can't take them off with a screwdriver. And some people feel that gives it more, the whole body of the guitar is, more vibrates better because it's actually dovetailed in. So I don't know if that's true because this. does this is a good job. But the Japanese Fenders, when I used to play them in the 90s, pick them up and play them, they didn't have the back of the neck didn't like rattle against my thumb on those. And the Korean ones and the Chinese ones didn't do that either, in my experience.
Yeah.
And I probably played less than 500 of them, but I never found one that.
It's a small sampling.
It's a small sampling. I know they probably made millions, but I never got the zing out of a Japanese, Stratocaster that I did out of an American one or a Mexican one. So I say the Mexican ones sound pretty good. The pickups tend to be cheaper. They're like the hardware on them is not as good. Of course, you can easily replace pickups and so forth. But I'm fairly impressed with my Mexican Strat, and I'm glad to have it. And I guess my Mexican bass is not anywhere near as good as my California-made bass. I have 2 Fender Jazz basses, and the American one is from the custom shop. I'm not exactly sure what they built it out of, swamp ash or something, but it's it's better. It's a lot better than my Mexican Fender Jazz bass, but it's nice to have the Jazz. It was only $400, and it was, the other one was like $1,700, and I don't know.
That's another thing they mention here. They say Fender created one of the first commercially successful solid body electric basses.
Yeah. That's an important bit of history. That changed a lot of things for a lot of kinds of music. Which is another thing we could do on the show sometime. I have an Epiphone, which is, of course, made in Korea. And an Epiphone has a long, interesting history that which we can get into. Maybe we should save it for the long winter nights. But the Epiphone, it was bought by Gibson a long time ago. And they built Epiphones in the Gibson plant in the old days. But then many years ago, it became their import line. So Gibsons are built in the USA. Epiphones are copies of Gibsons built in other countries. And the Korean ones were really quite decent, actually, the ones that I've played. But anyway, so I have an Epiphone EB1 bass, which was a Gibson back in like 1950, 52 era. And it's like a bass guitar, but it has a stick. It's like you hold it like this, and it has a long stick, and which kept falling out. And I actually mounted it on a tripod. And so I could walk up to it and play it like a string bass, but it's the size of a bass guitar, so it's much smaller than a string bass, but shorter scale length. And I used to play it all the time for my one-man band thing because I had trouble with my fingernails on a bass guitar because the strings are too thick. So I actually, since then, I learned how to use my fingernails differently, and I've gotten chrome-plated, ribbon-wound bass strings. So I play bass fairly normally, as normal as I do anything to it. And I also gave that EB1 to my son. And about 2 weeks ago, he gave it back because it's been sitting around for years and years. He started playing bass guitar, and then I gave it to him as a gift, once. And he doesn't hardly play music at all anymore because he's
a teenager.
Well, when he comes to me and says, I want to, he didn't want to be in an orchestra anymore, and he wasn't interested in the jazz band because he was a string bass player.
Right.
And he said he didn't want to, when he went from junior high to high school, which was, now he's going to be a senior this year, so this is several years ago, it's a couple years ago, but he said that he didn't want to be in an orchestra anymore. He wanted to, because it was a waste of time for him, he wanted to focus all his energy on math and science. And what am I supposed to say?
What kind of a musician's son is that?
Yeah. What am I supposed to do? So I say, okay, But really, my approach to parenting is like, it's your life,
Yeah.
And you got to decide who you are. And what I could do is I could have forced him with psychological warfare from an early age to be the bass player in my little band, and we'd have a converted school bus, and we'd travel around and have him drop out of school. But no, he wants to go to Stanford and study engineering and work in robotics. So, what am I supposed to do?
So he wants to grow up and earn money.
That's right. But on the other side of it, he could conceivably do pretty well financially. And I ain't getting no younger, and, I've been giving him money for all this time and paying his bills. I mean, maybe goes around. No, I don't know. I didn't say that. So anyway, he gave it back. So I had this EB1, which looked like a bass guitar, but was on a long stick. And this was Gibson's idea in the early 50s. And Fender came out with the Fender Jazz Bass, Fender Precision, and then the Jazz Bass. which is a bass guitar, and that changed everything. Because the string bass is awfully difficult to carry around with you, for one thing. Believe me, I know, I have 2 of them. And the bass guitar is punchy, and it's quick. I almost brought one with me today.
Well, that's an old joke. That's why gypsies play fiddles. It's hard to run with a piano.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Saw a cartoon rock and roll band advertisement. Experienced bass player needed, must know both notes.
That's right. Bass is, to play well, it's very difficult. I think being a really good bass guitar player, like in a jazz band or even a really good rock band. But there's a joke about some guy who, well, actually I heard it was a musician whose son, he gave his son a bass guitar in lessons. Right. So the first week, the son says, goes off and comes back for his lesson, and his father says, "What'd you learn today?" He said, "Well, I learned what the notes were on the 4th string." And then the next week he comes back, and his father says, "What did you learn this week?" He said, "I learned the notes on the 3rd string." And the 3rd week comes back, and the father says, "What did you learn today in your bass lesson?" He said, "Oh, I blew it off. I got in a band." And my other stories, there's a nice kid, and I'm doing all talking, no playing, I'm sorry. But the kid took bass guitar lessons from me once, and a young fellow about 19 or so. He came in for a lesson, and I showed him something off of a Stevie Wonder song that was on the radio. This is a long time ago. Yeah. But it was and the bass part was that, basically. And also how to do it in a closed position, so you go. So I showed him that one bass thing. It's like a quick start thing, you could actually use it. And then he didn't come back for his next lesson, and he didn't come back for for like 4 years. And this is not a joke, this is a true story. And he came back and said, "Teach me something else." Because he'd been in bands for like 4 years with the one riff that I taught him. And I don't know. It's one of those things, I guess.
Well, speaking of bass and jazz, a month or 2 ago I got in the habit of turning KCCK on when I sleep for various reasons. I had some noise issues and I wanted sound on that would mask noise, and most rock stations just don't do it for me. No. Classical music I have trouble falling asleep to because I start thinking about it all the time. Right. Jazz is great music, but it's something I can usually fall asleep to.
That puts you to sleep.
Well, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't put me to sleep. I can sleep when it's on, but I love jazz and it's great music and it's incredibly sophisticated stuff. I mean, in a sense, it's as sophisticated as classical music, just in a different way. But I have these really neat experiences where I'll, be in a deep sleep and I'll wake up briefly and I've got the bass boosted up on it because I'm primarily wanting to mask low noises like doors slamming and stuff. So if I wake up out of a deep sleep, I'll be hearing jazz, and since the bass is boosted up, you can focus really on what either the bass guitar or the string bass is doing, and I've heard just some incredible stuff that way. Oh, yeah. And you hear it in a pristine state of mind because you've just waken up out of a deep sleep and you're hearing this stuff. And so lately I've been very cognizant of what goes on in the lower voices in jazz, and it's pretty incredible stuff. So yeah, let's hear it for bass guitars and string basses. And do you remember Charles Mingus?
Yeah.
I actually saw him play live. A good friend of mine back east was into jazz, and he took me to a lot of concerts and stuff, and I heard Mingus play live. He was quite something. But the other thing I wanted to say, since we're doing so much talking, you mentioned last week's show and all the talking we did there. We brought up Andy Griffith. I don't know how that came up. I don't know if Bob had
died.
But did Bob see that, or because I know later that night I heard that he died, but I'm wondering if Bob had seen that on the internet. So that's why it came up. Okay.
I saw that too, actually.
So we knew that when we brought it up on the show. I was a Johnny come lately to the conversation. Okay, well that eases my mind, because I was going to say maybe we shouldn't bring up celebrities anymore. Living celebrities, we might jinx them. So.
We didn't kill him. We brought it up because he had died.
Good. Okay, I'm relieved to hear that. So.
We didn't kill him. No, we didn't.
Good.
No, he. The thing was kind of weird about it, though, was we were my band, the Tom and the Tribbles, which we are no longer called, but the string band. We played at Trek Fest, and we did Dooley, and so when I wanted to hear Dooley, the song done by the Dillards, and it came up on the Andy Griffith show, because they used to be regular guests on the Andy Griffith show. So it was like, a week before he died that I looked at these clips from the Andy Griffith show of him sitting there with the Dillards, who were called the Darlings on that show, and doing the song Dooley, which was, I think, an original to them. And we did that, and Banjo Dave sang it, which caused his hand to quiver a bit, but he persevered. But anyway, so it was a little bit weird that I hadn't really thought about Andy Griffith, because he's not the sort of, I got nothing against the guy, I just not the sort of guy I think about all the time,
Doesn't come up that often.
No.
But on the other hand, he is kind of a ubiquitous person. It would make perfect sense to look him up on YouTube, especially the music, because he did have a lot of music on that show.
He did a lot for bluegrass, actually, popularizing it. And I remember being a kid, and like in high school, I played the guitar, the mandolin, and the string bass, and then I started picking up the banjo. So I was sort of, and I never really, I like the newgrass started coming in, like the newgrass, the newgrass revival, and this sort of newgrass music, sort of progressive bluegrass. But the thing is that during the era of the 60s and 70s, because of the Andy Griffith show and having the Dillards on quite a bit, a lot of people who maybe wouldn't have heard that music became aware of it, and then went from there. So. I had friends who had Dillard's records, and I had seen them on the Andy Griffith show. So. And
that song you're referring to, that's the one that hang down your head, Tom Dooley?
No, it's Dooley.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know.
Dooley was Dooley, gotta make $1, Dooley. He was a moonshiner.
Okay.
And when he died, the men wept. They wept. At his passing.
Because not only was he gone, but his moonshine was gone.
Well, he was, yeah, and also he would. People owed him money a lot, for the moonshine. So he lubricated the happiness there from where in the hills, wherever he was from. But, so it was a song about a moonshiner, and I think the thing was that that was like a signature song for the Dillards and the Darlings, as they were called in the Andy Griffith show. That they were moonshiners. That, that he had to deal with, and.
Interesting. And how do you spell that? Because now I'm going to look that up myself. Is it D-O-O-L-Y or E-Y? Or
I think it's E-Y.
E-Y?
Dooley, maybe Y. Dooley. I don't know.
Well, with the Dillards, I'll be able to find it. But now I'm curious. Yeah, so you learn something new every day here.
Yeah, the Dillards doing Dooley. But if you look up the Dillards, you're going to find Dooley.
You're going to find it. Okay, this is a big hit. Okay.
Yeah, they were good. They were a good bluegrass band. But they also were. They started kind of early on, and there were family members in it. See, I could have done that to my own son, you see, but I didn't. And
instead, he turned out to be an engineer or a scientist.
Right. He's doing an internship at Rockwell now in Cedar Rapids, so he goes up there to Cedar Rapids there and does he's programming. And then he brought home his Lego robot that he had been programming. It was supposed to run into a wall and then turn around. When it ran into a wall, it would turn around, but it had a 1 second delay, so it would go up the wall, and then it would do a wheelie, and then so you had to go back and do more programming. But that's better him than me. I don't know how to program anything, but I can restring a Stratocaster just fine. But anyway.
Well, he'll probably get back into music at some point later, thanks to you. He's got it. He always has it, and he's going through his big push to establish a career or whatever right now. But after the dust settles, and who knows, he might do great engineering stuff for music. He might combine his.
He could build a robot to do the guitar playing, and then.
That would be good.
Not a job. But, well, they do it.
But at least you'd have a bass player who shows up,
That's right. Yeah, I have Sober, yeah. Not always that easy. Actually, a lot of times the bass player in the band is more responsible. Because there's several things. Like one thing, if you are in a band, if you're the bass player, you have to be very responsible. You have to be there on the beat. There's a joke: what does a bass player do in a band? Translates for the drummer, you know, which is, I guess one thing is the drummer may be incoherent. And if you ever watched the Muppet Show, Animal was based on reality, but the But bass players have a very important part, and I would say that if you're in a combo situation, you're almost like the conductor, because you are they keep everything
keeper of the time.
Keep the time, and also you're there for the chord changes. You know, you are there at the right note. As I said, I play the bass. You know, I started the string bass in 7th grade, and bass guitar when I was in my late teens, and I love bass playing, and I never seem to get a job doing it, but you know, you have to be like maybe the best musician in a group sometimes. So they're more responsible. Also, they don't tend to get the dates like the lead singers and lead guitar players did. So their lives are less complicated.
More time to practice.
That's right. They don't have.
Don't have the groupies.
That's right. You don't have people don't line up to hang around with a bass player. They want the lead guitar player or the lead singer guy. You know, the bass player is like standing back there, doing a thing with their chin, like that. You know, I don't know. I guess, in my perception, of course, I'm getting to be an older fella. You can tell I kind of grew up during a golden age of rock and roll. My childhood. They say rock and roll is actually from 1954 to 1974. 54 was before my time, but it kind of died in 1974 is what they think, and they say.
And disco kind of took over in the 70s.
Yeah, ooh. Which is actually my generation. When I was a young man, and out there, when I go to a nightclub, it was a disco. And I knew a guy who was in a rock and roll band. He had 2 bass drums in front. He said, "Support live music, burn in a disco." But he was a drummer. He never made it to 30, though. He's deceased, but he had issues. Mike Watts. Somebody out there, if there's anybody out there watching, somebody might remember Mike Watts. He was really good.